Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Kristen Smith. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania reporter, Christina Lingill. Christina, we have an update from an issue we've been covering for a few weeks now. It looks like the House passed a bill that would implement protections for our genetic data that we would send to companies like 23andMe. So tell us more about the bill.
So it gives consumers rights to their data. It requires transparency from the companies who are taking people's genetic data about what they're going to do with it. And it would require additional consent if those companies were to, for instance, sell that data to a third party or use it in marketing. Because, of course, one of the potentials here is that, someone's genetic data says that they have a particular disease or something like that. And so then you end up with marketing towards solutions for that disease that you didn't ask for. Those sorts of things are things that a consumer would need to give express consent for under this bill.
Was there any pushback, or is this something that was pretty widely accepted from both caucuses?
No, this is actually a unanimous consent. I was surprised. I have been looking into another bill that was floated earlier in the session. I think it was in March. Rep. Emily Kincaid, who's in the Allegheny County area, she had a bill that was, I think, a little bit more granular in that it talked about compensation for the use of genetic data. That goes back to Henrietta Lacks, who was a cervical cancer patient in the 1950s. She was an African-American woman. She was, her cells were taken and turned into the HeLa cell line, which still exists today, and it's still used for medical research. It's been instrumental in curing diseases like polio. It's, had a huge impact on the medical field, but she was never compensated. Her family was never compensated. She wasn't even asked for permission when this happened. So we have, a very old example of something like that. And then in the newer examples, when you see something like 23andMe go bankrupt, and then where does that data go? Or the huge data breach that was involved with the same company. We just have legislators who are very, very invested in making sure that this deeply personal information is protected. Seeing this bill, I think this one was a little bit more general. I don't know if that's why it caught traction, or if there will still be future bills that kind of lean more towards the financial compensation side of how you can use your data. But this one, yeah, I was surprised to see a unanimous, we're always surprised to see a unanimous vote. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes there, how that agreement came to. It was very little fanfare. I will also say that there are other bills that are far more controversial, like there's one in the Senate that deals with taking DNA samples as part of the arrest for certain crimes, just like you do fingerprints. But these, again, are people who have been arrested, not people who have been convicted. So that's much more controversial, and you see a lot of Democratic opposition to that. So I guess this one is more general and more just protecting consumer rights.
You're absolutely right. It's not often that we're on here talking about something that everybody agrees with. So it is, I guess, refreshing for the people in Pennsylvania to know that they're making progress on protecting this genetic data. Because if you really think about it, we're in the wild, wild west of this issue in general. Although you did give that really old example that I was unaware of, but that's very interesting points that you made. And so you mentioned the criminal justice component of this. So this bill doesn't really get into any of that, right?
No, not at all.
Okay.
But it does, yeah, it brings up questions that came up within the discussion of the criminal justice use of DNA, just because people are concerned about what happens if that information gets used, ends up in the wrong place, gets used by the wrong people. So in any circumstance, we're having like these really important discussions about how to protect this information, because it links us to a lot of things. Obviously, it links you to your physical makeup, but it links you to family members. And we've seen even killers be caught because of relatives who have had their DNA on something like ancestry.com. These are really cool things, but they're also things that we kind of have to judge the line. As you said, we are kind of in the Wild West, even though it's been pretty much since the turn of the century. It's been about 25 years that these companies have existed, that people have been able to use commercial DNA test kits.
All right. Well, we'll have to see how this bill progresses as it heads to the Senate. To keep up with this and more, follow us at thecentersquare.com/Pennsylvania.